Alright, I'm going to run through some tools that I use for my Arduino projects, and I'm going to go through them fairly quickly. Alright, this is a digital multimeter. You use it to measure various aspects of electricity. I don't really have time to go into how to work it today, but you can Google it and learn more on the internet. This is some ways that I use to stick things together. Electrical tape, I don't really use this all that often, but this is one of my big tools growing up as a kid, so I keep it around just for nostalgia. Zip ties, I always can use zip ties. I always have a tube of crazy glue on hand. You never know when you'll need to attach a couple of tiny parts together. And of course, everyone's favorite, the hot glue gun. Alright, next, screwdrivers. You know, you're going to be using a variety of these, you know, and you should make sure that some of them are smaller than others. They just get used a lot in the Arduino world. Multitools. I keep this in my toolbox. It's just a very fancy Swiss Army knife. And this is my multi-tool for my pocket. And I use them all the time, basically. And I definitely recommend you have a multi-tool in your kit. Another tool that I find useful is a hemostat. It's a surgical tool, but it's good for holding onto really tiny things and being able to clamp it shut. Okay, next let's go over soldering tools. It's good to keep a little soldering iron in your toolbox. I have a bigger one that I keep on the desk, but this one's good for carrying around. And of course you're going to need solder as well. This is 60-40, 0.8 diameter, and this is definitely good stuff. This is what I use for all my projects. Solder sucker. If your solder, you get too much solder on your project, you can heat it up again and suck it out. Also, various hand tools for cutting and stripping wires. You're definitely going to use all of those. Next, this is a pana vise. It is a small vise used for holding PCBs while you solder on them. And the last thing I want to talk about for soldering is it's nice to have a little pair of tweezers along. You may not use them all the time, but when there's a little thing that you have to grab, you're going to be totally grateful you had them. Next, here are ways to power your project. You've got your USB cable. I always keep a few of these on hand, because if you don't have one and you want to do some Arduino work, you're going to be very sad. And then a wall wart. I mentioned these previously. This one's kind of cool because it's switchable, so you can change the amount of volts it outputs. And it also has different ways to connect. So if you could use it for a number of different applications, not just Arduinos. Next, measurement. I really love these calipers. They're super cheap and very precise. They switch from metric to imperial. I don't know, that for how much they are, they just seem shockingly good. I always keep a little ruler on hand, and of course a cheap tape measure. Doesn't have to be a big one, but when you need to measure something that's like a foot long or 2 feet long or something, it's nice to have a tape measure around. And lastly, cutting. I always keep a pair of scissors and then a nice X-Acto set. Always comes in handy. Well, that's it for my tool tutorial. I've also reached the end of part 1 of Arduino for Beginners. In part 2, I'll delve into Arduino sketches, the programs that make it run motors and listen to sensors. I'll even introduce you to a couple of useful components that can be used to make simple projects with the Arduino.